Hello and welcome to the Pokemon Legends EA Rank Season 2 Meta Breakdown. Since Season 1, there's been a lot of picks rising in power and a few that have fallen off, so let's break down all the current meta picks and pretty much go over their optimal builds and how you should play them. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel for more Legends EA content. Alright guys, we're going to jump right into the most popular meta picks of this current season, so starting with Xerneas, who is obviously the most popular Pokemon being used in ranked battles right now. That is because Xerneas is not only a restricted Pokemon, but it's just very powerful, right? So let's go over two sets. I have two sets planned for you guys, starting with this one that I think is fairly popular, the Reflect, Light Screen, and Geomancy set with just Moonblast for your stab option. It's pretty much 3 setup moves and Moonblast for damage. You go an HP spread with special attack, so 252 HP, 252 special attack with a modest nature. I think this set is pretty good. Reflect and an HP investment allows you to live stuff like Heavy Slam for Mega Metagross or like Iron Tail from Mega Steelix. It's a pretty good defensive set that lets Xerneas stay alive and nuke things with Moonblast. You go Berry for just extra ability to tank steel type moves. It's pretty solid. Yeah, you don't have to worry about Xerneas getting one shot. Your Xerneas is pretty much unkillable since Geomancy gives it such high SPDF boost, and then Reflect and Light Screen gives it further damage reduction. Moonblast is a good enough damage option for really everything since nothing can immune Moonblast. The only problem that I really have with this set is the fact that you have no investments in speed, which means your Moonblast is going to be a much higher cooldown, your Geomancy is going to be an extremely high cooldown, and it's not going to feel that great. Not to mention, going screens also means that you're going to be missing out on T-Bolts against Gyarados or Focus Blast against Mega Steelixes. So the fact that you're only restricted to one attacking move and it's a really long cooldown makes this build feel a little unappealing to me, although I do know that this build is somewhat popular in ranked battles right now, which is why I felt that I had to mention it. But if I were to play Xerneas, I would most definitely go this set, which is Moonblast, T-Bolt, Focus Blast with Geomancy, and you go max special attack, max speed. The reason why I think this is much better is because, yes, in theory, a much bulkier build would be better in 1v1 scenarios, but when it comes to a Battle Royale game like Pokemon Legends EA, you'd much rather have your Xerneas be kind of hanging out in the back lines, just sniping things with Moonblast and T-Bolt, so you're going to stay away from, like, close quarters combat, and you can just invest at the speed to, like, maximize your cooldown reduction rather than give yourself bulk, right, since you're trying to play from a range. I think this makes much more sense, and not to mention you get a much lower cooldown on Geomancy, which may feel nice. If you don't know already, if you use a move like Geomancy and then swap out into another Pokemon and then swap back into Xerneas, that cooldown doesn't automatically be refreshed. It's gonna be still charging up the cooldown and waiting for Geomancy to come back up. So if you have no investments at this speed, that cooldown is gonna feel really annoying when you're swapping back onto your Xerneas and it's just not ready yet, so you can't set up. So I think having the CDR for that's going to feel really nice. You still have a good defensive item in Berry to still help you stay alive against stuff like Heavy Slam Metagross or Steelix and whatnot. So I think it's defensive enough with just this one item, and then Geomancy will obviously cover your special defense, and then you have 3 attacking moves to, like, this is to hit Gyarados, Focus Blast is to hit Steelix. I think this build makes the most sense, although I know a lot of people are going to fight me in the comments about how they feel much better for an HP build. Just play how you want to play Xerneas between these two sets. My personal favorite's this one, but if you feel that you've gotten better results from this one, then go ahead. It's probably good enough. Alright, moving on to a Pokemon that we've mentioned already. Mega Metagross is probably the most popular check to Xerneas right now, mainly because Mega Metagross gains, I believe, like 2,000, like it weighs 2,000 pounds, which means that its Heavy Slam actually can do significant damage to Xerneas, who weighs about 400-ish to 500-ish pounds. So Heavy Slam by Mega Metagross is one of the best ways to deal with Xerneas, despite Xerneas is running Berry right now. Ice Punch and T-Punch is just ways to hit like Garchomp and Gyarados, who are also fairly popular right now, and then Earthquake is just a good AoE move. You could replace this with like Iron Head. If you want to Heavy Slam a Xerneas and it lives with a Berry, you can follow it up with an Iron Head to maybe finish it off. That could be an option as well. Otherwise, Earthquake is just a good solid move that I think you should run. The investments are going to be HP 252 and Attack 252, and I know some people are going to ask me, why not put some defensive investments to like survive like Garchomp EQ? I've calced this a lot already, and pretty much how I feel about it is Garchomp will pretty much always be +1, right? Since getting off of Swords Dance is pretty easy in a game like this. So you're going to have to consider all of your interactions as Garchomp being +1, and whether if it's Mega or whether if it's regular Garchomp, that +1 Earthquake is still going to annihilate your Mega Metagross no matter how much you invest. I did a 222 HP, 252 defense with an Impish nature, and that alone still makes you tank like 99% of your health, and you're only putting 36 into attack, and you're not running an adamant nature. So you have to gut your offensive ability so much just to be able to tank one Earthquake from a +1 Garchomp. And that's not even Mega Garchomp, by the way. It's just regular Garchomp. So it just doesn't. I don't feel like it's worth it. I'd much rather have a screen setter in the back for my Metagross, or even run screens on my Metagross. Maybe like run Reflect over Earthquake, maybe. And that way I could just use a 252 HP, 252 attack, and like just play that way. I don't want to like gut my offensive potential in Metagross so much just to be able to live that one interaction against Garchomp. I think it just doesn't make sense. So that's how I would play Metagross. I think it's much more popular than regular Metagross right now, given that Mega Metagross is so much heavier, which means Heavy Slam does much more damage. But regular Metagross is still not bad. You can use it as a screen setter. You can run it with Chuckle Berries, so you don't have to actually worry about Garchomps. Ice Punch can deal with Garchomps, and an Earthquake is just a good AoE that allows you to deal with other Metagrosses, since a lot of people are going to be running Metagross right now due to Xerneas being very popular. So Earthquake makes a lot of sense. Or you can run Thunder Punch if you want to take out like Gyarados. That works as well. This is going to be 252 HP, 252 attack. Since you're running screens, you're defensive enough with those, and then Chuckle Berry keeps you even more alive against Garchomps. So I think maximizing your attack and maximizing your HP is the best with this build. I still think Mega Metagross is going to be much more popular, given that it's a much better check into Xerneas. But if you just need a defensive screen setter in the back, then Metagross is still perfectly fine without its Mega. Now let's move on to Mega Steelix. Has become much more popular recently, but it was definitely not as popular in the first season. But now that Xerneas is really prevalent, I think that's why a lot of people started looking at Mega Steelix. Very heavy, just like Mega Metagross. I believe it's around like 1,600 to 1,700 pounds. So Heavy Slam will do very considerable damage to Xerneas. And you can also run Iron Tail as well, which is a 100 base power steel move. So if you proc its very first with Heavy Slam and then follow it up with an Iron Tail, then it's going to pretty much nuke Xerneas. You have Curse as well to set up your attack. So a Curse boosted Iron Tail is going to do a lot of damage to Xerneas. You have Earthquake, which is also Stab, and it's going to do so much AoE damage to people around you. It also counters Metagrosses, which is why I think Steelix is very valuable right now, because it tanks Earthquake from Metagross really well, because it has a 230 physical defense stat, and can dish Earthquake back to Metagrosses and pretty much annihilate them. Mega Steelix checks stuff like Garchomp if you're running Ice Fang. It checks T-Tar, who's fairly popular right now. Metagrosses. It can tank Skarmory really well. It can deal with Xerneas. I think Mega Steelix is incredibly underrated. The only problem with this Pokemon that you'll run into in ranked matches is just how slow it is. Like, it'll be a little hard to catch up to Xerneas's. It'll be a little hard to catch up to Metagross's, given their innate movement speed. And especially if you run Curse, your movement speed gets gutted by a lot. So you're going to have to make sure to jump in first with Heavy Slam, and then try and Curse in front of your opponents. That way you don't like have to chase them as much. If you play like that, Mega Steelix can feel really nice. And I think it's going to be one of the more underrated, maybe slowly starting to become more popular picks in the current season. I really love Mega Steelix. I am very happy to see that it's succeeding right now. Let's move on to Mega Skarmory. So Metagross and Steelix are like the best ways to deal with Xerneas. Problem with Steelix though is it actually is weak to Focus Blast from Xerneas, so actually Metagross is probably like definitively the best option. But Skarmory is still pretty good too. Skarmory is obviously weak to T-Bolt. If the Xerneas is running T-Bolt, GMNT T-Bolt will pretty much annihilate a Skarmory, so you gotta watch out for that for sure. But if you play around T-Bolt, then you're perfectly fine against like Moonblast, so you can just rip a Brave Bird or a Steel Wing after a Swords Dance, and generally it'll one-shot the Xerneas if it doesn't have like Reflect up already. So Mega Skarmory feels pretty nice, not to mention it has pretty innate speed at like 110, so it has pretty decent cooldown reduction already for these moves like Steel Wing and Brave Bird. So you can just invest into 252 HP to keep yourself a little tankier and 252 attack, and you can just like rip Brave Birds and Steel Wings over and over again on Xerneas's and just hopefully kill them. You can also run Drill Run to hit Metagrosses. I find that pretty nice. It doesn't do much into Mega Steelix, given that Mega Steelix just so much physical defense, but it's pretty good into like Metagrosses, and also pretty good into like Delphoxes and Chandelures if you run into those. So I would definitely would run Drill Run, and alongside your Stabs and Swords Dance, obviously, to set up your attack. I think Mega Skarmory is going to be one of the stronger picks this season just because of the presence of Xerneas. Not the best check into Xerneas for sure, but it will do pretty well. So that's why I think it's going to be pretty popular this season. Alright, so because Steel-type Pokemon like Metagross and Steelix and Skarmory are going to be much more popular because of the rise of Xerneas, obviously we're going to see Fire-type Pokemon like Mega Delphox and Mega Chandelure become much more popular as well because of all those Steel Walls that are running around right now. Let's start with Mega Delphox. This is the moveset I like to run: Flamethrower, Psychic, Heat Wave, and Calm Mind. I know some people like to run Focus Blast or like Solar Beam as coverage, but in my opinion, I think having Flamethrower and Heat Wave feels really nice because they're used in different scenarios. Flamethrower for if something's like right in front of you and you need to get your move out quickly, and a Heat Wave is more for like if you're kind of isolated and you want to throw down one giant AoE move to hit like everyone, but it has a really long windup, so you have to use it carefully. So I think having both moves is nice, and then Psychic is your second stab option. And you can choose between Calm Mind and Nasty Plot for your setup. Calm Mind does give you a Spadef boost, which will be much more helpful into like Xerneas. Nasty Plot does give you a longer duration on your special attack. That could be good in some situations. So you can kind of just pick and choose. I think Calm Mind will be the better one just because of Xerneas. 252 special attack. You actually don't need 252 speed, because if you run a timid nature and just 164 speed EVs, you hit the 192 speed threshold, which does give you the maximum CDR for your flamethrower and your psychic. So I think just running this EV spread is the best. You can throw the rest into special defense as well to let you beat Xerneas 1v1s better. Delphox is a great check into Xerneas as well. Not really because it has anything to hit Xerneas for super effective, but because it just tanks Xerneas pretty well. Like you tank Moonblast, you tank Focus Blast. I guess you do take neutral damage from T-Bolt, but you have such a high special defense stat alongside the investment you're going to put into it, so that T-Bolt is going to do almost no damage to you. So I think Delphox with this EV spread and with this moveset is going to be pretty nice into Xerneas, which is why I think Mega Delphox is pretty valuable right now. Not to mention, obviously, nukes Metagross, nukes Steelix, nukes Skarmory. So yeah, really good into those Pokemon. Mega Chandelure plays a similar role to Mega Delphox, except it's also able to beat Mega Delphox because it has Shadow Ball. But obviously it does come of its downsides. A lot slower than Mega Delphox. It is a bit bulkier, but like not enough for you to want to like really have this kind of stat spread compared to like Mega Delphox, who's so much more faster. But I mean, as I said, it checks Mega Delphox innately because of Shadow Ball. It gets similar moves, Flamethrower and Heat Wave, so it can play a similar role to it, where it just deals with Metagross, Steelixes, and Skarmories and whatnot. Also gets Calm Mind to set up its special attack and Spadef. It does a little worse into Xerneas for sure, since you don't really have the wiggle room to like throw in some extra Spadef EVs. You need the maximum 252 in speed and also a timid nature to make sure your cooldown reduction is maximized on your moves. Unfortunately, this doesn't mean you can fully maximize your cooldowns because you just don't have enough speed. You don't hit that 192 threshold. So Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, and Heat Wave will still be like kind of relatively long cooldown, which is something you're gonna have to deal with. So when you're playing Chandelure, definitely make sure you maintain your range from your opponents. Let your cooldowns come back up. If you get too close to your opponents, then you're not giving yourself enough time for your cooldowns to come back up, and you could die. Right, so that's how you play Chandelure. I don't really. Some people will maybe want to do 252 HP. I think it's much better if you just play Chandelure from range and just let it spam moves and like wait for its moves to come back off cooldown. So for that reason, I think having the 252 speed for CDR makes much more sense, in my opinion. If you were to do HP though, then you could do like this and then like probably keep the same moveset, yeah, and then you can take out Timid for Modest, I guess. I don't know, I feel like I just wouldn't play it that way. But let's move on to Garchomp, who checks Delphox and Chandelure because it does resist fire, and it's a really strong physical attacker that threatens these two. Not to mention, Garchomp also beats Metagross and Steelix and whatnot. Or Steelix, it's kind of a 50-50, I feel like, into that, because Steelix has such high physical defense. But Garchomp obviously really loses to Xerneas, which is why it's kind of fallen off in power a bit. But it's still doing pretty well just because picks like Mega Delphox and Chandelure are pretty popular right now. So the moveset I like to run is Dragon Rush, Earthquake, Fire Fang, and Swords Dance. Prior, I used to run Dragon Claw over Fire Fang, but now Fire Fang is a little more valuable because Steel types like to run Shuckle Berries. So if they tank the Earthquake, then you can just follow it up with a Fire Fang, and hopefully that's enough to kill those guys. Also, randomly, I see Abomasnow sometimes. Fire Fang nukes those guys as well. And then if there's Glaceons, you can hit them with Fire Fang as well. I think Fire Fang makes a lot more sense than just having a second Dragon Stab. Dragon Rush is strong enough on its own anyway. Same EV spread as last season, 252 HP, 252 attack. Throw the little extra bit into Spadef, I guess, and you can run an Adamant Nature to maximize your damage. Garchomp is Garchomp. I feel like you guys already know how it works. It just jumps in with Dragon Rush, rips a giant Earthquake on everyone, nukes Metagrosses. It can even do pretty decent damage to Xerneas if Xerneas just doesn't have Moonblast up, and you can just sneak up and use a Swords Dance boosted Earthquake. It can do a lot of damage. Generally won't result in a one-shot, especially if the Xerneas is running Reflect. But it's good damage, and if the Xerneas like is chunked already, then you can just go in and like rip an Earthquake, and Garchomp can win that matchup just because it's so innately strong in physical attack, right? 170 is really nice. You can also just run Shuckle Berry Garchomp instead, or not Shuckle Berry, sorry, Yacha Berry Garchomp instead of Mega Garchomp. Keeps you much more alive against ice moves. In my opinion, I think Mega Garchomp's just 170 attack stat is so much more appealing, so I like to just run that instead. But you could run Yacha Berry for like whatever Glaceons or Ice Beam Greninjas that might threaten you. Let's move on to Gyarados. Gyarados is a pretty good check into Garchomp because it does get Ice Fang. And if the Garchomp is not running Ultra Berry, then Ice Fang will generally do like 90-ish% HP at least. And then Bounce is a really great move. It jumps on enemies. Waterfall runs, like dashes at enemies. And you can also run Crunch. Some people don't like running Crunch because you don't have Dark Stab and Mega. But I still think it's a good move just because Waterfall Crunch is just a really fast combo. You dash in with Waterfall. And then Crunch activates really quickly just because it has a really low fast activation. So if you Waterfall onto a Chandelure and then just follow up with Crunch, they usually can't react in time and will just die to that combo. So that's why I like to just keep Crunch. And then if I feel like running Mega, then I already have Crunch in a moveset and then I'll get some Stab. So yeah, I think this is the moveset I'll pretty much always run on Gyarados. You could run Earthquake instead if you want to hit Metagross a bit better, but I never find myself needing it. Also, Crunch does a super effective damage to Metagross as well, right? So that's how I see it. You do 252 HP, 252 attack, same EV spread as like Garchomp. You just jump in and just deal a lot of damage. You don't really need the cooldown reduction since you're kind of tanky enough to like stay alive long enough for your cooldowns to come back up anyway. Adamant Nature to boost your attack. He's pretty much just the same as last season. I think Gyarados has actually increased a lot more in value this season because of the rise of Delphox and Chandelure, and it still checks Garchomp. It does pretty well into Metagross as well, unless if they're running T-Punch, but that's why you run Wakon Berry, to make sure you don't get nuked by like Xerneas T-Bolt or like Metagross T-Punch. Instead, you could run Mega. I don't find myself liking it as much because you gotta get to Mega first, right, by charging up your Mega energy, and if you get hit by T-Bolts during that time period, then you won't have Wakon Berry to save you. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about Gyarados. Mega is still pretty good though. It is obviously way better into like Chandelure and Delphox because your Dark Stab, your Dark typing means that you're immune to like Psychic from Delphox and you resist Shadow Ball from Chandelure. So it does have its benefits, but I think Wakon with this moveset is still the best in my opinion. Let's move on to Mega Greninja, who has fallen off a little bit given that it's really weak to Xerneas. Like one Moonblast will just annihilate this thing. It doesn't even need to be Geomancy boosted, but still very good into like Delphox and Chandelure, so I still think it still has some value in this meta, given its typing is just so good into like these two Pokemon. The EV spread is 252 special attack, 236 into speed, and 20 into HP. You only need this much speed for the maximum CDR for Surf, Dark Pulse, and Ice Beam. So I think just having this much is fine, and you throw the rest into HP. And then run a Modest Nature since you don't need more speed. Running Modest allows you to nuke a lot more with Surf, Dark Pulse, and Ice Beam. Greninja just does a lot of damage. You get to run Modest given how fast it is. And it just has great moves like Surf that does so much AoE damage. Dark Pulse, great at dealing with Delphox and like Metagross right now, which is pretty high value. Same with Chandelure. Ice Beam to nuke Garchomp, so you pretty much will always run this. Garchomp and even Dragonite is still pretty like popular, so you might as well just run Ice Beam to hit those guys. And obviously you want Nasty Plot to stop your special attack. Greninja definitely a little weaker than last season just because of Xerneas, but I still think it's good. Like since Delphox and Chandelure are popular enough right now, it warrants enough for a Mega Greninja to be played this season, in my opinion. Let's move on to Ampharos, who is the same as last season. You just run it on screens, charge T-Bolt to hopefully get one-shots on Gyarados. The beauty of charge T-Bolt is that it will kill through Wakon Berries, so Gyaradoses might feel confident enough to stay on field with their Wakon, and then they'll be surprised by the random one-shot they take from charge T-Bolt. So that combo is pretty nice. And since you want to ensure one-shots, HP, a 2v2, 2v2 special attack with a Modest Nature is the way to go, just to get that extra damage on charging T-Bolt. Shuckle Berry to just stay alive against Earthquake from Garchomp, Earthquake from Metagross and whatnot. Since you're using Ampharos as pretty much a utility mon, where you want to set up screens for your carries, you want to keep it alive, so running Shuckle Berry makes more sense rather than like something that boosts your damage. Yeah, Ampharos is pretty much playing the exact same way as last season. It's a way to check Gyarados, it's a way to set up screens. It even does pretty good damage into like Chandelure or like just other mons that take neutral damage from it, given how strong charge T-Bolt with this EV spread is. So it can still do decent damage in neutral matchups, but yeah, that's Ampharos. It's still pretty good. Yeah, so like those are like, in my opinion, like the most strong meta picks this season. Like those are the picks you're going to see a lot of everywhere, but there are some underrated picks that I've been playing personally, and I think that they deserve a lot more attention this season. And I made a video on this one, Mega Eelektross. This was my most recent video. I think Mega Eelektross is highly underrated right now because of its ability to just absolutely nuke things. It gets a setup and bulk up and charge. So if you combine these setup moves together and then just rip a Wild Charge or something, it one-shots Delphoxes, it one-shots Chandelures, it for sure one-shots Gyaradoses, it one-shots almost everything in the metagame, Skarmory as well. The only thing that really can come in and deal with it comfortably is Garchomp, so you definitely want to run Eelektross with like an Ice type or a Gyarados to deal with those Garchomps, but otherwise Eelektross just nukes the entire metagame right now, and can even deal pretty good damage to the Xerneases that are not like HP invested in Reflect. But even into those matchups, like, it still generally wins because the HP and Reflect Xerneases are only running Moonblast as their, like, attack moves, so it has to, like, go through Moonblast and then wait for its cooldown to come back up and then Moonblast again. Meanwhile, Eelektross is ripping Wild Charge, Waterfall, another Wild Charge, and generally will win that matchup. So that's why I think Mega Eelektross is highly valuable right now. It's just an extremely strong physical attacker in its Mega. It has a 145 physical attack stat when it Megas. You can run it on Adamant and HP 252 just to maximize your damage. You can also run it on Waterfall to like maybe hit Delphoxes and Chandelures a bit better, although it's not really necessary for those guys since your Wild Charge setup just does so much damage into those guys and they're so physically frail. Instead of Waterfall, you can run like Fire Punch if you find yourself needing some kind of way to like hit Ice types or like Steel types better. Could be better into Metagross for sure. So yeah, like Fire Punch could be not bad, but I find because Waterfall just dashes at people so well, so like Wild Charge dashes in, Waterfall dashes in. Eelektross innately doesn't have great movement speed, so like having two dash moves can feel pretty comfortable. So I think the combination of these moves is pretty nice. Also, I think Eelektross, in order to use Waterfall, you need to catch an alpha one that the static alpha that comes with the move automatically. I think that's the only way, unless if there's a TM for Waterfall that I haven't collected yet. But yeah, that's my way of playing Mega Eelektross. I think it's super underrated right now. If you want to make a team around it, then I made a video on that recently, so make sure to go check out my channel. Mega Banette is the final underrated pick I want to talk about. Not being played a lot, which is very surprising to me because it has insane physical attack, which is incredibly valuable right now given that Xerneases, Delphoxes, and Chandelures are pretty prone to strong physical attackers. It has 165 base physical attack. You can run it on max EVs into attack and HP and an Adamant Nature to nuke even harder. Phantom Force, really good move, extremely good move. You just disappear into the Shadow Realm and then just randomly pop out on someone and they might not expect it and then just take a bajillion damage. You can also set up your Swords Dance prior. So Swords Dance combined with these investments and then just rip a Phantom Force on someone, even in neutral damage, you do so much damage. And then obviously against like Delphox and Chandelures, you just absolutely obliterate them. You don't even need to use Phantom Force most of the time. Shadow Sneak after a Swords Dance will do like 60 to like 70% of their HP. So if they're already like kind of tickled, you can just finish them off with Shadow Sneak. You can run Shadow Claw as well if you want to do like a Phantom Force in and then Shadow Claw right afterwards, since that's your next strongest stab move. Outside of like Shadow Sneak. But Gunk Shot for Xerneas can feel pretty nice. It sucks that this thing doesn't get Poison Jab. If it did, then this thing would be so good into Xerneas. But unfortunately, its only other move, its only poison move is Gunk Shot. So you have to like kind of hope that once you Phantom Force onto a Xerneas, they kind of stand still so their Gunk Shot can connect. Gunk Shot is a great move on paper, 120 base power, good poison chance. But the problem with it is just how the move actually goes out. You shoot this little like projectile, like shoo, and it's just so reactable. It has really bad range too, and it doesn't really home in on the target. So the moment you shoot it out, if your opponent is smart enough, they'll just reposition away from it, and it's really hard to actually connect with this move. So it doesn't feel reliable, but if Xerneases randomly get hit by it, then you're doing pretty good damage to them. So for that reason, I think that's good enough to take it. But if you don't feel like using it, then you just run like 3 Ghost moves in Phantom Force, Shadow Sneak, and Shadow Claw. Honestly, doesn't even feel that bad. You can run these 3 moves, and then obviously you need Swords Dance to set up your attack, right? So I think Banette has pretty good use cases in the meta right now. Delphox, Chandelure, Xerneas, Metagross. Metagross is a huge one. Phantom Force after a Swords Dance will just obliterate Metagrosses even in Mega. So Banette has a pretty good spot in the meta. I think a lot more people should be looking at it right now just because it checks so many of the meta picks right now. But yeah, I think that pretty much finishes off everything I wanted to talk about today. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 14 Pokemon that we just talked about. If you have any more questions about like build options or like how you could build things differently from what I've shown you today, then definitely leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to answer your question as soon as possible. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We have a ton of people in there talking about Legends EA and their cool rank sets and like whatever shinies they find. So if you want to have some discussions there, then definitely join my Discord. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap up the video. Have a good day or have a good night, and I'll see you next time.